Okay, so yesterday we talked about the percent proportion, and I asked you to do these questions. 5 of you either attempted or completed them. 5. Out of 18. Okay. Okay, so you should check your setup. Go on, Mrs. Bella. So yesterday we set up problems that had to do with the percent proportion. Today we're actually going to look at the word problems that would help us solve with the percent, or that percent proportion would help us? So I gave in-person learners a packet. If we're online, we're going to be on page 138 in your books. So this is section 3-1. So today we're going to focus on looking at word problems and setting up the word problems using the percent proportion. So again, yesterday we said the percent proportion is the part over the whole equals the percent over 100. Okay. So Diego starts a 12-hour road trip with his phone's battery charged at 75%. Given his normal usage, will his phone last the entire trip? So what information did the problem give you? Okay, it's a 12-hour road trip. Okay, his phone is at 75%. So this is how long the phone has to last, correct? Okay. It's currently charged at 75%. So what other information did the picture give you? Zach?
That when it's charged at 100% for over 15 hours.
Okay, so if the phone is charged to 100%, it lasts 15 hours. Okay? So we need to think about our part, our whole, and then our percent. Currently, what percent is the phone charged at? 75%. So that's going to be your percentage ratio right here. So we know the phone is charged at 75%. Where does the 15 go? It goes at the bottom. Why? 100%. That's the whole. The whole battery is how many hours? 15%. I'm sorry, not 15%, but 15 hours. So 15 is with 100, correct? We don't know how long the battery will last if we're at 75%, correct?
Yeah.
But we know we need,
Hello.
so what goes here?
X.
X. So, can we get from 15 to 100 easily?
No.
So how are we going to solve this?
Divide.
We're going to cross multiply. Okay? So again, when we cross multiply, denominator times numerator. So 100 times x. And then denominator times numerator. 75 times 15. So once we get to this point, we have our one-step equation. 100 times x equals 1,125. Do you know how to solve a one-step equation?
Yes.
Okay? 100 is being multiplied by x. So the inverse of multiplying by 100 is divided by 100. So we're going to divide both sides by 100. 100 divided by 100 leaves us with x. 1,125 divided by 100 is 11 and 25 hundredths. What does 11 and 25 hundredths mean in the context of our problem. Okay, so what does that mean when we solve? It's great if you can do cross products, you can solve it. But what does it mean in the context of our problem? Tucker?
So 11 hours and 25 minutes before the phone dies.
Okay, so it's not actually 11 hours and 25 minutes because this is 11 and 25 hundredths. That means 11 and 25 hundredths of an hour. So 11,
25 hundredths of an hour.
yeah, so look at the clock. What's 25 hundredths of an hour? What's a quarter of an hour?
15.
15. So this is actually 11 hours and 15 minutes. The question we were asking, given the normal usage, will his phone last the whole trip?
No.
Okay? The phone's not going to last the whole trip because we needed this to be 12 hours. So we can say okay? So Diego only has 11 hours and 15 minutes worth of charge. His phone will not last the 12-hour trip. How much charge does he need?
Needs
Okay. I think he needs 80.
I would say like 90, 95 is
How can we figure out how much charge he actually needs? We know he has to last, the battery has to last 12 hours. We know it about 100%. What do we know about 100%? It lasts 15 hours, right? So what do we have in our percent equation? Or sorry, percent proportion. What do we have? What information do we have?
100% the battery takes 15 hours.
Okay, 100% of the battery lasts 15 hours. Do we know how long the battery has to last?
Yeah.
So how long does the battery have to last?
12 hours.
So where does the 12 go?
On top of the 15.
On top of the 15. What do we not know?
What's the percent of the battery?
So we don't know the percent, so we could go X here. So just with that information, we can totally change the problem and think about this problem in a different way. We know that 75% won't last. But we can figure out how much he needs for the 12-hour road trip, right?
Yeah.
Right? So again, we can cross products. 15 times x, 100 times 12. Bob, your estimate was 80? Okay. Is Bob right?
Yeah.
Bob was right. Good job, Bob. Okay, so we know he actually needs 80% to last the entire trip. Okay, so that 5% more means that 5%, he actually is 45 minutes,
Yeah.
right? So again, just by changing, we had the pieces and parts, but just by changing the problem, we can now figure out how much Diego actually needed to last his entire trip. Okay. So again, pulling out the part and the whole from the problem, using our percent proportion to solve the equation, okay, or to solve the problem. All right, so let's look at the next one. You don't have to use the boxes, okay? So like, I want you to cross this part out. Cross that part out. So leave the percent proportion box, leave the X. Okay, we don't need that part. So Kidda's phone has a fully charged battery with normal usage. Her phone will last 18 hours. How much time is left on Kidda's phone battery with 12% charge remaining? Okay. So she had a fully charged battery. She normally, when she has her phone, it lasts 18 hours. My gosh. Anyone else's battery lasts 18 hours?
One from last week.
How much time is left on Kidda's phone battery with 12% remaining? So we don't know how much is left, right? But we do, so if we don't know how much is left, we use a variable to identify that position. At 100%, how long does Kidda's phone battery last? 18 hours. But we're not concerned about 18 hours, right? Because we've only got 12% left. So where does our 12 go? 12 goes over 100 because every time percent goes over, so now this is flip-flopped. We have our percent ratio on the one side and then our part to whole ratio on the other side. Does it change how we solve the problem? No, it doesn't change how we solve the problem. We still can use cross products. So 100 times x and then 12 times 18. I know that one off the top of my head. Oops. Now what?
You have to divide.
By? Okay, very good. So we said we have to divide by 100. Left side, whatever I do left, I do the right. Two and 1600?
Yes.
Can I leave it as 2 and 1600?
Yeah. No, unless you want to do more.
Unless you like doing long division. Do you think I can leave it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, why?
You have to pay.
Okay. It didn't ask for how many hours and minutes she had left, correct? Okay. So it didn't ask that. It just said how much time is left. Well, that's a function of time, correct? Okay. So 1600ths, right? So we had 1600ths of an hour. 16% of an hour. Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
Okay. So if I do 1600ths of an hour, So that's 0.16 times. So we got 1600ths. There's 60 minutes in an hour, correct?
Yeah.
So can we figure out the amount of minutes there are?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. What, honey?
9.6.
9.6? Son of a biscuit eating bulldog. Now we could go further. We could figure out how many minutes and how many seconds it is, right? Because now we've got 60% of a minute. Do we really need to go that far?
No.
No, absolutely not. We don't even need to go this far. So, 2 hours and about 10 minutes, right? Is that fair?
Yeah.
Okay.
Couldn't you have rounded, what's 16th of 100 up to, 2.20 then?
You could.
Because you would have just gotten 10 then?
Yeah. I would actually round down before I round up. Just, just to be, so 10%, which would be about 6 minutes, right? So, and then you're surprised when you have an extra 3 minutes of phone charge. One more TikTok video. Couple more scrolls, right? All right. Okay. So now let's look at our next problem here. A full set of adult teeth includes 160% as many teeth as a full set of baby teeth. How many teeth are there in a full set of adult teeth? So as an adult, you have more teeth than a baby, right? So, in our percent proportion, what do we know right away?
That we have 160, right?
Okay, we know that we've got 160% more teeth as adults than we do as children. So when we look at 160%, how do I represent 160% in my percent proportion?
160 over 100.
Okay. It's 160 over 100. Every percent is out of 100. Doesn't matter if it's, if it's 3% or if it's 160%. We're putting it over 100. So 160 represents what? The adult teeth, right? And then 100% represents the baby teeth, right? Do we know how many teeth we have as adults? Right now?
Right now.
You could probably count. Do you know right now, though?
No.
Okay, so what if we don't know something, what are we going to do? Okay. Now, 100% of the baby teeth, what value is 100% of all your baby teeth? 20. What are we going to do now? Okay, we can cross multiply. Just wait. Everyone catch up. You have a question?
Wouldn't it make more sense to just like multiply 20 by 5 to get 100 and then divide 160 by 5? Because
You
can
could.
get 100 easily.
You could. But can you always do that?
No.
question?
So for how the x and 100, or do we always use x as like our multiplying variable then?
You can. You don't have to.
Or it's
We use X a lot in algebra, so I tend to use X a lot. I mean, you could use T for T, that'd be fine. I tend not to use T as a variable because it looks a lot like an addition sign.
yeah.
So like the variables I usually stay away from are T, O. A lot of times I'll stay away from S.
Oh,
Yeah, oh, because O looks like 0. Z sometimes can look like a 2. So I try really hard to stay away from those. Everything else is pretty much safe. You know, maybe an L, don't use L either unless you're using like a cursive L. Because L will look like a 1. So, yeah. Alright, so yes? Agree? So what does that mean?
adults have 32,
Yeah. So adults have 32 teeth. Most adults don't have 32 teeth. Okay? Most people get their wisdom teeth removed, so that's 4 right there. A lot of people also get their, like some of their molars pulled because they're, like maybe their mouth isn't big enough and their teeth are too big. So like me, I think I've had like 8 teeth pulled
Oh.
because my mouth is small. So all my teeth couldn't fit in, right? So when I started getting braces and stuff like that, they pulled my teeth to make all my teeth fit in my mouth.
That's the problem.
Doesn't it also depend on the person?
Oh, it totally depends on the person.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like Grayson actually was only born with 19 teeth. He wasn't born with 20 teeth because where his cleft is, a tooth didn't grow there. Yeah. And he's got one tooth like right in the middle of his, like in the roof of his mouth. It's horrible. Trying to brush it. Oh gosh. It's not good.
Oh, didn't you have braces when you were like one?
Yeah.
You did?
He had like 5 years. He had for a long time.
He had like a giant.
Oh really? Oh, that's cool. Well, it is cool. I mean, like people are all different. Like,
Wow, where'd you know?
I mean, like the world. You know, you're not cookie cutter. The world's not cookie cutter. Everyone's got different things going on, and I'm fascinated by that stuff because my kid, right? You know, like I have been on quite a journey with Grayson. You know, Grayson was at the orthodontist. Most kids don't go to the orthodontist until they're 9 or 10. Grayson was at the orthodontist at 4 weeks.
4 weeks.
Like he got out of the NICU, and he was at the orthodontist right away.
Did you take him there to like your doctors say, hey, you should take
Well, we knew that he was going to be born with cleft lip. You can't tell at that point because it was 5 years ago. You couldn't necessarily tell that he had cleft palate, which is the hole in the roof of the mouth. So we knew he was going to have cleft lip. So even before Grace was born, we met with the plastic surgeon. So we knew what we were going to do with Grayson when he was born. And then we also met with the orthodontic team down at Case, and they like mapped out a plan for us of like what was going to happen with Grayson, or what could happen with Grayson because of the cleft if he was born with a cleft palate. So like Grace was actually fitted with a retainer when he was 4 weeks old. It's called a NAM device, and it was a retainer. But what it did was it actually spaced out like his palate, so the roof of his mouth, and then he had a contraption. He had 2 stickers right here, and then there was like a little button that came out of his mouth. And we used rubber bands, like the braces rubber bands, and we took all of his, and we used tape and rubber bands, and all of the muscles in his face, we actually, the rubber bands pulled it like towards the center of his mouth, so it made the surgery easier, the lip surgery easier. It's fascinating. It really, really is. But like, we went through all that. You know, most kids don't go to the orthodontist until you're 9, 10 years old. You know, Grace was there at 4 weeks old, right? So we knew, so we had a doctor in place, we had an orthodontist in place, we had an entire team in place. even before Grayson was born. And the very first thing they did was they looked in his mouth to see if he had cleft palate, and then we were able to call and set everything up and put everything in place.
Did they know right away he had it? Or
Oh yeah, because that's one of the very first things they look for is, when they're doing the physical exam, because a lot of times you can't, like some kids will have cleft lip and not cleft palate. Other kids will have cleft palate, not cleft lip. Some kids have both, like Gray.
Did they tell that Grayson had Down syndrome before he was even born?
No. So that's another thing. Like Grayson was, like we did all the prenatal screening for every genetic anomaly because we knew he had cleft lip. So when you're born with cleft lip, there's a chance that other syndromes will follow. So we had a lot of genetic testing done, and none of his genetic testing came back with markers of Down syndrome. None.
what?
None. I don't know. So then, when he was born, he didn't have any of the physical features. Like he didn't have kids with Down syndrome usually have like lower set ears, and they kind of bug out a little bit, like more like a flatter face, a flatter nose, and then they have like instead of like you guys have like several creases in your palm, they only have one. And then the other marker is your toes.
How did they have one person?
Okay?
How is it even possible?
So your toes, like they'll come together like this, right? Kids with Down syndrome and individuals with Down syndrome, their big toes come out a little bit. We call it flip-flop feet because it's perfect for a flip-flop, right? So Grayson didn't really have any of those markers, but he was really, really small. So he was like 5 pounds.
So then you're hearing like something was a little wrong.
They started doing genetic testing because they're like, oh, it's only cleft lip, cleft palate, we're good. And we were like, okay, because he did the physical exam, he had none of the features. So then he was like having trouble gaining weight, so we were at the doctor a lot, and like instead of straight formula, we had to like double the formula and put oil in his formula so he could gain weight. Yeah, it was a whole thing. Like Grayson is a miracle. He really is. Miracle that he's even alive, to be honest with you. So then it was about 3 months old, and the doctor's like, you know what? Something's not right. I'm going to do some genetic testing. We need to figure out what's going on with Grayson. And I said, that's fine. But insurance-wise, it takes a couple months for, things to go through, and everything's got to get approved, and they got to make sure they're going to pay for it. Because if they're not going to pay for it, then we're going to pay $10,000 to have these tests run. Oh, yeah.
$10,000?
Oh, yeah. For them to take a little bit of blood and then analyze it under the microscope.
Hello.
Yeah.
I'll give you a job.
So then, it was about 4 months, and we were still waiting on genetic testing. And Grayson was supposed to have his cleft lip surgery in November. So he wasn't up to weight, so he couldn't have his surgery. But I said to the doctor, but I wanted to get Grayson to be baptized before he had surgery, just in case something happened. And so I set up the baptismal appointment and everything like that with our church.
Those are like hard though, like when you put back. Those are hard to find. 'Cause
Yes.
So many people want to do them, and it's like
Yes.
you find a certain time that fits for everyone.
For everybody. So I went and we were having his baptism, so I went and got some pictures taken of him in his baptismal gown and stuff like that. Mom things that you do. The pictures came back, and I called the doctor right away. I said, hi, Dr. Lopez, this is Grayson's mom, Kristen. I know we're doing the genetic testing, well, the genetic testing test for Down syndrome. And she said, why? She's like, why are you worried about that? And I said, I'm going to send you a picture right now, and I want you to tell me whether or not I should be worried. So I sent her a picture of Grayson, and she goes, I need you to go to the lab right away. Because it was the first time that I saw a picture of Grayson where he had the features of Down syndrome. Where, like, he had this, the almond-shaped eyes, and, like, because he was growing.
Oh, so you couldn't tell?
So you couldn't tell because he was so small. But as he started to grow and gain weight, the features started coming. So I was the one that caught that he had Down syndrome.
You notice it like
and I didn't notice it because you see your kid every day.
Yeah, and it's
But then you look at a picture of your kid and you're like, ruh-roh, something's not right. So she called, so I sent her the picture, I sent it right to her cell phone. And she was like, okay, you need to go to the lab right now. I don't care if Medical Mutual is not gonna pay for it or not. You need to go to the lab right now. And then about 2 weeks later, I got the phone call that Grayson had Down syndrome. So then we started another journey, right? So like when I say Grayson's a miracle, like I really mean he's a miracle. Like he survived a lot so far, right? Yes, dear.
I was gonna say, when my nephew was born, they thought he was gonna have Down syndrome, but as he's growing, they're starting to notice that he's not, like, doesn't have the physical features. And my sister said, well, I don't really care if he does or doesn't, it's kind of.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It doesn't matter. The kid's awesome.
thought
Trey's
that-
nephew had Down syndrome.
And Trey's nephew is actually he also was born with cleft. And I don't know if he was born with cleft lip and cleft palate or just cleft lip, but same thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Mhm.
How old is Grayson?
Grayson's 5. He'll be 6 in July.
It's not mine.
Can I get
He's
my
going to
son?
kindergarten.
Oh,
Yeah.
he's the same month as me.
July 6th.
It's not mine.
My little miracle baby. But yeah, so cool. Grayson doesn't have this one, I don't think. I think it's this one that he doesn't have. And then this one over here is like right here in the middle of his mouth. Yeah, it's a nightmare.
So wait, does it just look like he has his 2 front teeth and then it's just like he just lost a tooth?
Yeah. He's silly. Alright, okay, so what we're gonna do tonight, hopefully more than 5 of you will participate.
I will. I'll try.
Let's do page 141. So page 141, and let's do 9 through 12. That's in your book. Yep. The online kids got a whole thing that they didn't expect today.